Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the expert panel discussion looking at organizational behavior, specifically individual differences and learning. My name is Trevor Hartley, and I'm joined on our panel today by Brian Dragoo and Anne Stokes. Would you mind introducing yourselves?
Hello, I'm Anne Stokes. I'm Group Chief Operating Officer for FNZ.
I'm Brian Dragoo, Marketing Director at Viagogo, an online ticket exchange.
Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today. What we're going to be looking at, we're going to be looking at this topic of organizational behavior, specifically around individual differences and learning. When you look at learning, how would you encourage someone to look at learning from the context of an organization and how you learn?
I think that the best advice or the best learning that I was ever given was that God gave me 2 ears and 1 mouth, and I needed to use them in that ratio. That the more you go up an organisation, the more you've got to listen. Mm-hmm. The more that you need to be sensitive to people and the dynamics of people, what they like doing, what they feel more comfortable doing. And my style's changed over the years, from being quite reactive and very spontaneous to something that is still a bit spontaneous, but with a little s rather than a capital S now. So
slightly more measured in your approach
very
in
much
terms
more
of
measured.
how you do things.
Yeah,
that's very interesting what you say. I think there's a famous saying that goes around that says you get hired because of your intelligence, but you get promoted because of your emotional intelligence.
Great. And
emotional intelligence is just that. It's being able to understand where people are coming from, create that necessary rapport, understanding, create some kind of connect, and then start influencing or managing from that position. Brian, when you look at your rise through management, what could you attribute some of those learnings to?
Well, I think it's really, you have to understand what, and this is both people that are more senior than you and people that you're managing, you have to understand what they want really as well. So you have to really determine what motivates them. And 1, so you know what to deliver to senior management, and 2, so you know how to get the best out of your team. And I think having that awareness, it really helps, 1, just how you kind of motivate a team, and then 2, also how you can progress.
And in terms of your organizational experience and management, how would you say when you are looking to engage people, what are some of the key things that you need to be thinking around?
Their natural styles. You can create. You can't have teams that are all the same type of individual. It doesn't work. Actually, the strength of a team is around having the diversity that enables there to be healthy debate and healthy exchange. Too many organisations have got the wrong type of pale male stale type attitude when it comes to what's the sort of people that we want in the team, or what's the natural DNA of a leader. They're not as open to people that can be very, very different. Look at an organisation that's gone through a phenomenal change is Ford. Alan Mullally, very charismatic leader. He's come from Boeing, moved into Ford. Up until that point, nobody had ever led the company that wasn't out of an automotive background. And yet there's been a complete transformation. Now, he's had to lead the organisation in a different way. You don't have to be man and boy all the way through to be able to say that you can do it. Actually, different opinions, different views do count.
I think that's fantastic. And just picking up on something that you mentioned there, which I think is incredibly important, is that each one of us has a preferred style of learning. When we look at individual differences, when we look at how people do learn as they go about doing things, each one of us has a different learning style. Some of us will be more out there, more in your face, more get all excited and move on. Others of us would want to sit back, take everything in, understand the end outcome, and be able to have time to process information. I think some people, you start talking to them, and before they think about anything, they think, how's this going to be practical to me? So unless it's practical, I don't even want to hear it. And then you get some people who can just be totally engaged by detail, by theories, by long discussions, those really deep people. And from what I'm hearing, and you saying that in order to make an effective team And I guess if you brought it down even to an individual level, in order for an individual to learn appropriately, you would actually need to make time for all of these little pieces that you could actually go through that whole stage of experiencing, of thinking about what's happened, of practically what's my next step in order for effective learning to take place. So on that note, what I'd like to do is jump into our case study. We're looking at a young gentleman here, James Barker. He is the grandson of the founder of a very successful organization, been around for 50 years. In the last 12 months, they've started going through a lot of organizational change. They have got a new management team in place, and this management team has now given James the opportunity to lead up a key project in the organization. They're going to be putting together a climate survey looking at the morale of the people in the organization who've been through the change, and he's gone about it in a way that hasn't yielded the results that he expected. Your first thoughts on this situation, Brian, what were they reading the case study?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think James. He's the golden boy of the organization. I mean, everyone knows who he is, and I think he knows that. And so he's very much a known entity, and going about it, he is very outgoing, and he is very he the big ideas guy. And I think looking at it when he was going and structuring this team, he just went about it a bit the wrong way. And a lot of this was because he was going out and trying to make these relationships within the company. It's a great heritage in his family and these type of things. And I think that's really where he went wrong. Okay,
so bearing that in mind, and some of your thoughts?
I didn't like him.
Okay, expand on that for us.
I just didn't like him. I thought he from reading the study, I could just hear the voice of a me. Yeah, I'm telling you, and this is my image, and this is. The guy is focused on the image of the self, and that's what's come across. He hasn't for 1 second thought about the team. Right at the end, he goes, why haven't you the poor progress of the team, of you, not our team. Me, that's not a leader, that's not somebody who's charismatic. He thinks he's charismatic, but he's charismatic about his own PR. That's what comes across to me. And you're right, he's failed because he hasn't understood that just because he is the grandson of the person that founded the company, well, that doesn't actually mean anything.
Picking up on that train of thought, Anne, I think sometimes you get these people, their personalities are almost larger than life, and they're so focused on themselves that they fail to comprehend the impact of their actions and how those are impacting on the team. In this scenario, I think you're very right in saying that he saw himself as this incredibly outgoing, incredibly vivacious individual, and yet when you look at the impact, it's all about himself. It's not around what's the team actually trying to achieve. So when we take a step back and we start analyzing the situation, the question that the learners have been posed is, what did James actually get horribly wrong? And going forward, what should he be looking to do to rectify the situation? Perhaps, Brian, we can start off with yourself. What has James got wrong in this situation?
So I think what he's done is he has found he's trying to manage people the way he likes to be managed. So he has I think Cheryl in the study where it is very similar to him in terms of how they react, and that's how they've worked well together in the past. But he has two other people on the team that don't necessarily work that way, and he has failed to identify exactly how they need to work and how they're going to benefit the team and what contribution they can actually make in the team. And from not laying this out or having that insight into the team, he's really failed in terms of getting them to progress like they needed to.
So, I don't think he even cares. Because there's talent in there, particularly Sid, and actually should be drawing on that talent. So it goes back to understanding your strengths. But I think he's just so focused on himself that even if he had the right team around him, I'm not even sure it would be successful anyway because of him. Okay. It can actually not be successful in spite of having the right people.
That's right. So we've got a team here, and the composition of the team is one which could actually be incredibly successful. Mm-hmm. We've got Hannah with great experience in human capital. We've got Sid who has phenomenal experience in terms of processes. And you would think that in terms of the task at hand, these would be two skill sets which he absolutely has to engage.
Yep.
And I think, Anne, what you're saying is, because of himself, because of this approach on looking first at where he is and his profile, he's actually failed to leverage off the skills that he actually has in his team.
That's right.
So looking at where to from here, half of the project time is already gone, the presentation's looming. How does he get to the point where he pulls things together? Is it possible? Anne, your thoughts?
Well, I'd be interested to know whether he could be capable of doing it himself. He probably thinks he can.
Okay, assume best case scenario. Assume he has this divine intervention where he realizes he's gone horribly wrong. He needs to change it. Where to from here? If you're coaching, what are you coaching him to do?
Really get to set the parameters for the team and work with the team, not alienate them. He's just given them a vision and said, right, this is it. Tell me if there's something you don't understand. And then disappeared and done his image management. What really needs here is a sleeves not suits approach. Get in with the team, build the rapport particularly with Sid, because Sid's going to be a really important stakeholder in the wider community. He's got a track record, he's got a reputation, people will listen to him, and actually if James is as bright as he thinks he is, he'll cotton on to the fact that actually he may not like this guy, but he needs him, and therefore find a way of working with him for the benefit of the enterprise. Simple as that.
Okay, brilliant. What I'd like to do, our learners have got 3 possible solutions or alternatives which they could have chosen. The first is that James didn't really set the project up well. He didn't create individual meaning for the team. He didn't practically say this is the benefit that's going to be ascribed to you should you partake. And going forward, he should really look at defining the team roles more. That's option 1. Option 2, James should have spent less time lobbying for support, which is something we've touched on, and should have got more involved in the detailed deliverables. Going forward, James should really refocus on the detailed steps necessary to deliver in the next few days. And then our final option is James actually sought to engage the team in a manner in which he would have been engaged, not thinking or taking into account their preferred learning styles or how they should have been engaged, and because of doing that, didn't access their actual strengths and what they could bring to the party. Going forward, he should look to really assign project deliverables in a structured way, because they're more structured individuals, and then create regular checking points for them to actually achieve their goals. Given those 3 scenarios and the broad discussion we've had, what would your preferred solution be? Brian?
Yeah, so I think where he has gone wrong, like I mentioned before, was that he did try to manage the team like he wanted to be managed. So I think I agree with C on this one. And I think what he needs to do is now figure out the other 2 members of his team, which is Sid and Hannah, and exactly figure out what they need out of the process and how is he going to get them to deliver. And I think where Hannah, she's very much process-oriented, it seems. Get her on some very tactical, get her on some process, get her on some research things, and have some deliverables that she needs to meet. With Sid, I think there's some competition between Sid and James, and I think Sid would be, fine if James if failed, really, because he has some other contacts within the organization. So I think you need to give Sid something that he can have a success, so he can be seen by management. So I think you need to have that is how he needs to structure the team going forward. Now, granted, he only has 3 days, so yes, he needs to have some check-ins, but it needs to happen sooner than later. Okay. And so I would go with C on this one.
Fantastic. Anne, your thoughts?
Yeah, I totally agree. And the thing I would also do is I'd make the team be in the same location.
Very good.
Team dynamics are going to be really important on something that's time critical, and you can't have people swanning in, swanning out. They're going to need to base themselves together. That way, then, there will be a rapport that builds out of pressure. And it may well be a good point of learning for James that, I got this wrong, therefore this is how I've got to do it differently next time. And, his biggest risk is not the failure to the people that he's trying to influence. It's actually the risk of making Sid look very, very good, because I agree with you. He's got absolutely nothing to lose by letting James fail.
Wonderful. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We've looked at the case study in points. Our panel of experts have come to a variation of Solution C. Obviously, a lot to consider. Thank you very much for joining me today. It's been fantastic having you, and all the best. Thank you so much. Thank you.